Okay, one small question.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, we open mic? Are we open mic? Everyone's been asking that.
After you finish, have you told a couple of stories that everybody else?
Okay.
Just like.
Yes, yes. Okay,
Is there a repeat available?
stories. Page 1. I had the perfect story picked out for this evening and it went away. But that's all right. Actually, I'm gonna do the cowtail switch because I think that encompasses why we're doing what we do. And warning, you might be involved in the telling of this tale. You serious? Okay. I'll be doing a lot of this. Was that my stomach? So Waleed, am I positioned as you would need me to be positioned, or do I need to move or what?
Looks good. That's good. Maybe. Just a little bit.
A little bit that way?
Just a minute.
Whoops. Don't want to do that. That actually happened the last time. Oh, you were there, yes. We were at the square and they had me sitting in the chair and I sat and the chair went back. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna,
Are you coming back?
yeah, if
Well, if you can't, you know.
we're gonna go down.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see you in a few.
Everyone else, they will.
Yes. Ah. Embarrassing story. Years ago, before I started wearing African clothing, I was gifted a very wonderful tailor-made suit, and I was walking through a part of Washington D.C. we call Columbia Heights. No, Adams Morgan, and I looked ahead and I saw this guy in his suit, and the suit was the boss. You know, he really looked good in the suit, and I said, I need to compliment that brother on how good he looks in that suit. So I tried to catch up with him, but he started walking faster. And then he turned the corner, and I turned the corner, and he wasn't there. I'm like, well, where could he have gone? And I'm looking, I'm trying to figure out, and I look in the window, and what I've been following was my reflection. But I look good. I said, and I blushed. You probably can't tell, but I do blush. And you know, I'm like, whoa. I said I should never tell that story. And yet I just told that story. So let me know when you're ready, Waleed. Is this my mic?
Yes.
My mic sounds good. Check 1. Oh, this is the cup. I guarantee they bought me coffee, but no cup. That's all right. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all those assembled. That's Mike John Rowe impersonation. My name is Baba C, and we welcome you to a special broadcast from the 3rd edition of the Marrakesh International Storytelling Festival. Yes, and also in conjunction with WorldStorytellingCafe.com. My name is Baba C. I'm a griot master storyteller. I'm from Washington, D.C. I better get that right. Washington, D.C., because someone will probably try to Google Washington, D.C. and won't find it, which is the capital of the United States of America. And I'm one of how many storytellers we have this time around? He asked Mike.
106.
106. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We invite you to tune in, call in a friend, pop some popcorn, and if you can, come visit us in Marrakesh. I love it here. You know, storytelling is probably one of the oldest arts, if not the oldest, in the world. Storytelling has given birth to many things. And first, let's define what a story is. A story is a telling of events that may or may not have happened. Yeah, give you an example. Ladies, I'm not picking on you, but you're a prime example I like to use. When ladies call each other in the evening and talk about what happened during the day, you know, they're telling a story. When men brag about their conquest, they're definitely telling a story. Stories are and stories can be in many different forms. You can dance a story, you can sing a story, you can pop rock a story, you can tell a story through the spoken word and poetry, the written verse, but it's conveying ideas. That is the art of storytelling. And we have some very wonderful and very diverse and inclusive storytellers gathered here for the 3rd annual Marrakesh International Storytelling Festival. And I want to share a story with you that I think encompasses why we tell stories. And this story is called the Cow Tail Switch. I almost forgot the name of my own story. The Cow Tail Switch. What's the name of the story? We're going to try that again. What's the name of the story?
I'll tell you.
Don't make me get up. So, you see, a long time ago is when this story took place. Now, this story is told in Ethiopia and other parts of Africa. And this story, I've changed the names around a little bit to honor some people that I've met during the course of my life. Now, in the story, there was a fierce hunter. How fierce was he? In this story, there was a fierce hunter. That's your cue to go, how fierce was he?
How fierce was he?
Thank you. Interactive, folks, interactive. And his name was Amagogo. And Amagogo was so fierce that when he went hunting, all he had to do was look at an animal and it would drop dead because it knew that it couldn't get away from Amagogo. If Amagogo was in the mood for fowls, for birds, he would just look up in the air, bird made a contact with him, it would just fall, just drop dead. It was, he was just that fierce. He was so fierce that when it rained, the water would not touch his body. Now that's fierce. Now, in this village, in the Kijiji, the women would go out and they tend to the fields and take care of the what's the word? Thank you, what she said. And, that's the way they did in the village. And the men would go hunting. Well, one day, Amagogo, he'd go hunting, but he knew come back. And nobody missed him. He was gone for 14 days. No, that's not right. It was 2 weeks. No, it was a week and 7 days. And people want to know about their business. Now, Amagogo had sons. And one day, his youngest son, named Pele stood up and he looked around the Kijiji, the village. He said, "Where is my father?" And the whole village stopped. And they looked to their left and they looked to the right. And Pele said, "Where is my father?" And suddenly people realized they had not seen Amagogo in a week and 7 days. And his brothers gathered around and said, "We don't know where father is, but we must go find him." Now, the children of Amagogo had special gifts. And one son said, "I am a tracker supreme. I will track father." And so they gathered up a light lunch and they went tracking. And he could see the slightest bent in the twigs, the slightest impression on the ground. And he followed until the trail went cold. Pele said, "But where's father?" "I don't know." He had another son that could see beyond sight. He said, I will find father." And he said, there, I have found Father. I know where he is. And so the children of Amagogo began to walk very, very quickly to find their father. But when they reached the clearing where the father was, alas, there were only bones and a tattering of skin. Everybody go, oh, I see interactive. And they looked there and they were feeling very sad. And then one son said, I will gather up all of father's bones. And he began to gather up all the bones, even the little teensy little piece of bone. And he gathered until he had a complete skeleton. Another son said, I will cause there to be muscles and sinew. And he waved his hands, and muscle and sinew grew and attached itself to the skeleton. Another son said, I will make the skin regrow. And he waved his hand, and the skin regrew. Another son said, I will cause there to be blood in the new body that we have made for father. And he waved his hands, and blood began to pump and course its way through their father's body. The body was still. Another son said, I can only do this once, but I will breathe the gift of life into our father. And so he blew. Everybody blow. Oh, no, stop. Woo. I got to remember not to do that again. And Amagogo's body shook. It shook. And it shook. And Amagogo sat straight up. And he opened his eyes and looked around and said, why are you staring at me? Why are you standing around here staring? Where are we? Why am I where are my clothes? Why am I on the ground? Son said, Father, you have been gone, missing for 14 days. No, he's been gone for 2 weeks. No, he's been gone for a week and 7 days. And Pele asked us, where is our father? And we had to come looking for you. And we found you. And we restored you. And Amagogo said, Asante, my son. Asante sana, which is Swahili for thank you very much. He said, we must go home and have a feast to celebrate my return to the living. And so as they went home, he was looking to see what kind of animal he wanted. He looked around, he looked around, he looked around, he looked around, and he decided on zebra. Don't ask me why. I've never had zebra. And he looked at the zebra looked at him, and it dropped dead. His sons picked up the zebra and they proceeded back home to the Gigiji. That means village. And when they got to the village, everybody saw Amagogo walking into the village, and everybody went, oh, they're getting good. And they was like, oh, Amagogo, we missed you. Yeah, right. You didn't even know I was gone, but okay. We're going to have a feast. And so they did. Oh, they cooked and cooked and cooked and cooked, and they had a wonderful feast. Even the vegetarians had a good time. And they drank different beverages. And they danced and they played music. And you know, when you bring food, music, and dance together, you have a party. A party is what you go to. A party is what you are. Everybody say party. Oh, I think y'all been partying. Okay. Well, they danced and ate and sang and played music until they couldn't do it anymore. The next morning, Amagogo rose early and he went walking, contemplating and reflecting upon his demise and resurrection. And as he was walking, he came across a cow's tail, and he attached it to a switch. Now, I don't know if you guys know what a switch is, but when I was young, if you act up, your parents, in my case, my grandparent, would send you out to get a switch. And a switch is a thin little branch that you pluck off a tree, and then you would stand there and watch her pluck off the leaves of the switch, and she'd go, shh. Well, I was a goody good shoes, but every now and then I, got in trouble. And she made me go get a switch. Now, you didn't go get a bad switch. See, that's the real punishment was you had to get a switch that was going to cause you pain. And I remember her going, shh, and that's all I remember. I never acted up again. But back to the story already in progress. So he attached the cowtail to a switch and he made it somewhat ornate. And he would walk around the Kijiji, the village, doing this as he thought. Now, some people think that the cowtail switch is for keeping the flies off of you because the story is long before they had air conditioning and people spent a lot of time outside. And some people think the cowtail switch, the longer versions, were used to discipline children. Yeah, people think a lot of things. But Amagogo was walking around thinking, and people kept looking at the cowtail switch, and they went, ooh, oh, wow. No, actually, that was my line, but that's okay. So they offered him, they tried to buy it from him. So one person offered him 3 goats. He said, no. Another person offered him a cow and 4 goats. He said, no. Someone offered him 2 more wives. His wife said, no. She was very progressive. She wasn't having that. So he said, the cowtail switch is not for sale. But whenever he spoke at the village meetings, he would stand up and he would display the cowtail switch. And when he displayed the cowtail switch, people would listen. They would listen and they would follow his insights and advice. Then one day he said, stop trying to buy my cowtail switch. When I die, when I join the ancestors, his accent keeps changing. Have you noticed that? When I join the ancestors, the cowtail switch will go to the son that did the most to bring me back. Yes, that's what this is. They went, oh, everybody go, oh. And so the sons began to argue amongst themselves. The tracker said, well, I will get the cowtail switch because I tracked father. The son with the sight said, yeah, but you lost the track. You couldn't find him. I saw him. I found the clearing where father was. Another son said, you may have found the clearing, but when we got there were only bones. I put those bones back together. I made the skeleton. Well, you may have made the skeleton, but I put the sinew and muscles back on it. Yeah, well, I put the skin back on it. Yeah, well, I put the blood back on it. Yeah, but I blew the gift of life back into father's body. And they kept arguing and arguing and arguing. And the father said, enough. When I joined the ancestors, the cowtail switch would go to Pele. Everybody go, Pele. Now repeat after me. But he didn't do anything. And you wouldn't have done anything except for Pele asked, where is my father? And when he asked that, you remembered me. And when you remembered me, you came looking for me. If not for Pele, I'd still be bones turning to dust in the forest. And on the sad day that Amagogo joined the ancestors, everybody knew that the cowtail switch belonged to Pele. Now, how does this tie into the 3rd annual Marrakesh International Storytelling Festival? Easy. You see, as long as we tell the stories about people and things and ideas, as long as we tell the stories about history, and oh, by the way, history is not about the recording of facts. History is about the telling of stories. As long as we do this, as long as we gather in fellowship and share food, share the food and share food, we keep memories, culture, ideas, people alive in our hearts, our minds, and our soul. And that is the story of the cowtail switch. Asante. Ah! That was good. Sakita, and that was that was good. Next time, give me warning, but okay. Oh, yes, yes, we can. I'm glad you asked. I'm trying to figure out how to work it in. So my name is Baba C. What's my name? Okay. Now, years ago, when I had hair under here and this beard was black, that was many years ago. I used to work with a group of very young, rambunctious children who got in their head to call me Baba Lou. Now, for those who may not know, there was a very popular show in the United States called I Love Lucy. And the character Lucy was married to a musician, and the musician's name in his nightclub was Babalu. And the kids evidently watched too much I Love Lucy. They didn't call me Babalu. Well, I knew three things not to do, and all four of them was to tell them, don't call me Babalu. Because when you tell a little kid not to do something, that's what they do. So I said, how can I get these kids to call me Baba C? And what happened evolved into my Baba rap. Now, when I do this, I need my interactive audience to say, C. What are you going to say? All right, I like that. All right. So this is the rap I use to get them to call me Baba C. From Africa to the American South, magical words flow from my mouth. While the sun and the moon, they live in the sky. The signifying monkey got caught in his lies. Anansi's lazy, but the spider's not crazy. When history gets hazy, I don't let it faze me. I'm the grill, the shouter, the tell the stories, the big and tall. I tell it all. Some of them try to grill, but they can't go like this. Some of them try to grill, but they can't. Cause I'm the bobber, 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 the bobber. Cause I celebrate and educated, fascinate. Cause I fascinate and educated, celebrate. Cause I celebrate and educated, fascinate. Cause I fascinate and educated, celebrate. I'm the bobber, 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 the bobber. I'm the Baba C and not the Baba A, but Afrocentric is my way. I'm the Baba C and not the Baba B, but black and beautiful is what I be. I'm the Baba C caring constantly. I'm the Baba C caring constantly. I'm the Baba C caring constantly. I'm the Baba, 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 the Baba. See ya. Hey, Mike, to this day in Washington, D.C., I can be walking or standing at a bus stop, and this has actually happened. A carload of people who remember me from when they were children will look up and go, Baba C. And as the car pulls off, they go, Baba, 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 Baba C. You know, and I am very blessed that that happens because that means that I've touched in a good way more than a few lives. And that's the other reason why we tell stories, to touch people in a very positive way, to encourage people. You know, sometimes a person can be having a horrible day, and you sharing a story or telling them about something that happened to you, like, I just returned from Marrakesh, Morocco, might brighten up their day. You know, you never know. And I say, and I was talking to our volunteers, and I said, do you know the difference between a good day and a great day? The difference between a good day and a great day is you. You know, at the end of the day, remember the good things that happen, not that one sourpuss that, you know, that tried to tick you off. At the end of the day, remember the great things that happen, not the person that cut you off in traffic. At the end of the day, remember the great meal you had or the reunion you had, even though it may have been brief, with a friend you hadn't seen for decades. At the end of the day, remember that you lived through another day. And no matter how bad, how challenging your day was, you won't know it unless you are alive. And if you are alive, you can strive for better and better days. Now, later on, if we have some time, after some other folks have shared stories, I would like to share a very personal story about me and looking forward to better days. But now I got to turn to Mike and ask Mike, am I going to continue, or do we have some people who want to share a story?
That's the audience.
Anybody like? Yeah. Oh, we got to have story. Any storytellers?
I'll share a story.
Okay, come,
Yes.
please. Yeah. But first, what is your name, please?
My name is Naima Shamshun.
That's good. How do you spell it?
How do you spell it? Well, the English spell it Nayma because the English struggle with the A sound. So, but
You didn't do what I asked you to do.
yeah,
What is your name?
Naima,
How do you spell it?
Nayf. No,
Listen very carefully. What is your name?
Naima.
How do you spell it?
IT.
Thank you.
I
A story.
got there in the
All right.
end. Okay, you said that stories are history, and I suppose the story that I am going to share is in poetry format, but it is a story of Moroccan history.
Poetry is a shortcut to the soul.
Sure. I am not Berber. I am not a Berber, the barbarian of Greek generals and Roman raiders, cowering in the dust, conquered and crushed illegitimate invaders, marauding coveted minerals, advancing your empires further, the enemies at the gate, the carpeted caliphates, high, divided in two, half for me and half for you. Gracias. Merci. Adieu. I am a powerful Amazigh who has smirked at adversity for thousands of years, licking dusty tears, sipping warm mint tea, a syra drip from the wounds of the nomad fraternity, rising stronger from the debris. My tongue peppered in Arabic, French and Spanish, souvenirs I cannot vanquish. My words, an oral history of defeat and victory, immersed in rhythmic Maghreb music. I cannot be erased or silenced by the creed of the conquerors with their patriarchal parlance. I am of Al Kahina and the conjurers, a matriarchal warrior queen. Neither faith nor power can defeat a heart forged in desert heat. Beware my spectacular spleen, sands scattered by the winds. I travel across the globe in Al-Maghrib woven robes and olive grove skin. One day, you will say Berber, and I will see our ancestors, the civilized and the barbarian, the Amazigh and the invader, the jailer and liberty's dame. I will face you with fervor as I majestically assume my role. Hear my ululations rising above tribulation. Throughout history, I am Amazigh. Thank you.
You are mesmerizing.
Thank you.
No, thank you. One more round of applause. Woo. I'm glad I told my story before she did hers. Would anybody else like to step up to the mic, to the mic, to the mic, to the mic? Come. And tell us your name.
Fiona.
All right, that is right. I'm not going to trick you with a question.
Yeah, good. She was looking at me like, oh, yeah. How do I spell that?
I was gonna do that, but okay. She heard me. She said, how do you spell that? And that was my backup question. That's all right. So, tell us a little about yourself and,
So I'm half French, half Irish,
okay,
and I was lucky enough in September to come here for 2 weeks for residency,
okay,
and so then I got hooked. So I'm back.
all right.
Yeah.
Marrakesh will do that too.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
All right, and you're gonna share a story.
yeah.
The stage is yours.
So the theme being joy and healing, I'm gonna share a story that gives me joy and where I find healing as well. So once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a man who was an inventor. And his head was always busy with ideas, and he tried to implement them, and he invented so many things in his lifetime, only one of which is still with us to this day, and that is the lawnmower. This man invented the lawnmower. And this man had a little girl, and in his mind, she was going to take over the business. So even though she was only 6, he built a little lawnmower, just the right size for her. And he gave her a particular patch in the garden, and he said, this is your patch. So with your lawnmower, you are to mow this patch and to keep it really tidy. And if you do that, I will give you a salary. And he thought that this way, he will ensure the future of his business. So the girl was delighted, and she learned really quickly to use her little lawnmower. And she was really diligent. She was so careful, and she was going this way and then turning around and that way, and she wasn't leaving any clumps of grass in between. And her father looked at her and he thought, oh, this is my daughter. I am so proud, and yes, the future of my company is guaranteed. Then, so he watched her going here and there and there and back. And then she stopped working. She left the lawnmower there, she went away, and she had left a big area of wild grass in the corner. The father was really disappointed. He thought, this is not the standard that I want to set for our family. So then he called his daughter and he said, listen, you had started so well. Why did you leave this messy clump of grass? Unless you mow this clump of grass, I will not give you your salary. And the little girl said, Daddy, I would rather not get paid than mow this clump of grass. The father did not understand. He was furious. And then time passed. And to calm himself down, he went for a walk in the garden. I do that as well. And so he went to the clump of grass. And he saw that in the middle of the tall grasses, there was a beautiful little green frog. And then he understood. So that day, he wrote in his diary, where there is love, there is chaos. A world built on perfection would be as sad as a graveyard.
Whoa. I guess finding that frog, he had to hop to it. That was good. Would anybody else like to step to the mic? We're all friends here. Well, most of us. No, we're all friends here. Anybody else? Please do. Do 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 do. It amazed me that song. There are words to that song, but no one knows what they are.
Indeed.
And your name is?
Seema.
That's right. Tell us a little bit something about yourself.
Oh, well, you will somehow learn something about me here, but I think what I will share now is that I'm extremely grateful to be here. I'm
Okay.
absolutely in love with Morocco. Morocco is my home away from home, and in many ways feels more like home than the places I've grown up.
I understand, because I tell people I have 2 homes,
Mhm.
Washington, DC, United States of America, and Marrakesh in Morocco.
Yeah,
The stage is yours.
thank you so much. Yeah. So, if I could speak, I would say nothing. I would say absolutely nothing at all. For speaking takes much energy. The entire body, muscles, veins, saliva, vocal cords, and more must be united. And united is precisely what we are not. Sometimes I doubt whether there was ever a different time, a time when uniting truly came easily, when uniting was our nature. There has always been suffering. There has always been war. There has always been the death of the innocent. And yet there is one reason, one single reason I say, and why I do believe that there may have been another time, or at least that another time is worth moving towards. In fact, it is not only worth it, it is truly our only option. There is only one reason why I have still a single grain of faith. And faith is actually a very big word for me, one that is rather new in my vocabulary. A little over a year ago, I would have used the word hope. But there's something about hope that is not satisfying anymore. You see, the difference between faith and hope is agency. Hope is passive. Hope comes from a place of defeat. Hope says, there's nothing I can do but hope. Faith, however, is active. It is a daily practice, the deepest form of commitment. Faith is an active form of trust. Trust in that which is out of my control, rather than regret towards what is out of my control. Rather than identifying with my smallness, rather than turning away. Faith is an act of the soul. Faith is an act of the deepest level of acknowledgement, gratitude, surrender. Faith is the pause, the intentional pause, the pause that we feel inclined to take in every day, despite rarely doing so. Faith is a form of intuition and knowing, the deep and profound certainty that exists within us that there's more to life than we see. A knowing that there is something or some source beyond the mind's comprehension that gave rise to all of this. Existence, time, speed, light. And may I dare to say faith is an acknowledgement of our collective sense that this all has some form of relevance, some meaning, some intention. And my claim towards there being some form of intentionality behind all of this, behind life and our existence, is based on the same reason why I started by saying that there is no other choice but to move towards a better future. And this is because there is a yearning towards it. As if there was an invisible thread ever so slightly tugging at our hearts to keep going, to keep moving towards, to lean in. Sense into your body right now and see. Maybe some of you can feel it, can sense it, that urge towards beauty, towards possibility, towards light. There has always been darkness in human experience, and there always will be. But there has also always been an urge towards light. And I am here to share that this urge is worth spending time with, getting familiar with, appreciating. And perhaps just by becoming curious, we may realize at some point, looking back, that we intuitively moved towards it.
Whoa. Whoa. I'm almost speechless. Almost. And if you know me, you know I talk a lot. And if you get to know me, you know I talk a lot. But I have to let you know that I once was very quiet, said absolutely nothing. And then I was born. So I want to share a very personal story, because a lot of people don't share their personal stories. They're afraid of being judged or looked down upon. They don't want to be vulnerable. But when you share a personal story, when you share a story that affects your heart, you might pull at the heartstring of somebody else. You might release them from their shame or their sense of shame when there need be no shame. You might release them from feeling guilty when they need not be feel guilty. You may release them from feeling like I'm not a man if I admit that I have faults and pains, because men hurt. Men die earlier than women. And in part, it's because men tend to keep all of their suffering and pain to themselves. That's stress, and stress will wreck your body and your mind. So I want to share this story. It's actually two stories rolled in one. I live in Washington, D.C., in the United States of America. And Washington, D.C. is one of the most expensive places you can live. And I'm rather well known in what we call the DMV. And that stands for the District of Columbia, Maryland, that's a state, and Virginia, that's another state. A lot of people who are native to Washington have fled to Maryland and Virginia because it's a lot cheaper. Even if you're commuting back and forth, it's a lot cheaper to live in certain parts of Virginia and Maryland and on a DC salary than to try to live in DC. Now, I had to set that because a little bit over a year ago, no more than a year ago, I found myself homeless. I am DC's foremost interactive Greek and master storyteller in Playtime. But I found myself homeless because the city's just too expensive. So I was doing something we call couch surfing. And that's where you stay at a friend's place for a little while, usually sleeping on the couch. And then you go to another friend's, sleeping on the couch, and so forth and so forth. And I was applying for housing, and some other things happened to me, but I'm trying to make this story short. I was applying for housing, and I kept qualifying, but getting no callbacks. And, you know, it was, and then it's like, well, you can't afford to be here. Okay, fine. And I was on my last couch when I got a call. And I thought I was being interviewed for the possibility of being in an apartment. But I got to step back a little bit. While I was homeless, I was going through my regular physicals and checkups, and my general practitioner, my main doctor, saw something he wasn't quite happy about, and he sent me to a specialist. And when I got the results back from the specialist and we lost our feed, Wally,
It's funny you should.
I am. So I got the test results back, and 8 of the things said negative. Was that 9? Well, we'll pretend it was. And then 1 said positive. Not only was it positive, it was aggressively positive. I had prostate cancer. Homeless, and I got cancer. Homeless, and I have cancer. Now, believe it or not, I didn't go, woe is me, and start going, oh God, why me, why me, why? I didn't go through it. I knew, just like I knew I was not going to be homeless forever, I knew that I was going to survive cancer. And while dealing with this thought, I remembered a student of mine. He wanted me to call him a former student. I knew him when he was around 10, 11. He's been with me off and on because he's also one of my apprentices. And he's now in his late 30s or his late 30s. And he teaches special needs children. Now, I mention him because Roman Tanner is my hero. He's a cancer survivor. I knew him when he was in what we call elementary school. So he was in grade 5 or grade 6. And I was doing a special series of workshops at this school. And Roman was working harder than everybody else. If they were giving 100%, Roman was giving 150%. Roman was working so hard that I had to find creative ways of getting him to take a break without him thinking he's just doing that because he thinks I still have cancer. No, but he was he was just, you couldn't stop Roman. Once Roman got an idea in his head, there was no stopping him. And I cherish that to this day. And Roman became a cancer advocate and talking to young people and older people about cancer and how it does not have to be the end of the world. And I thought about that while I was dealing with my own. There are lots of cancers around, but the one most men do not want to have is prostate cancer. Because many men attach their sexuality to their manhood, to their sense of being. And if you can't function, a lot of them feel that, well, I'm not a man. I didn't go through that. I knew that I had cancer. I knew that it was a small, you couldn't even see it. There was no mass, there was no clump, there was no little piece of flesh. It was microscopic. And they told me, they gave me two options, an operation or radiation treatment. Long story short, I went with radiation treatment. I'm cancer-free. And I have a home. And that's my story. I share that with you because there are you may experience pain or doubt in your life, but sharing that pain or doubt in the form of a story or conversation or writing it down, somewhat may inspire somebody else to push beyond where they are. That is the power of a story. Stories can fascinate. They can inspire. Stories can rejuvenate. A story can keep alive the memories, the feelings, the sense, the smell. I hear certain stories and I remember the smell of baked goods in my household. I hear other stories and I remember, even though I don't eat it, I remember the bacon being cooked. I hear some stories and I remember we have a tradition in the United States, or we had a tradition in the United States of sending children south for the summer. Now, when you send a child south for the summer, they usually sent them down to the southern part of the United States to help relatives on their farm. Okay? But my people knew now we're not sending him to a farm, that he ain't gonna work it. He'll walk back. And whether that's true or not, but they sent me south. And my Aunt May could cook. Her husband could cook. He cooked with a K, K-O-O-K, but that's another story. But what I'm saying is that I was talking about stories. I would hear a story and I remembered sitting down at the breakfast table. And this is before I became a vegetarian. Sitting down at the breakfast table. We had eggs that were so fresh, you could still hear the hens clucking. We had milk that had been delivered by the milkman in bottles and was so fresh, you could still hear the cows going, woo. Breakfast was pancakes and two kinds of meat and homemade applesauce. Homemade applesauce. I still can taste it. My tongue knows the difference between store-bought and homemade. We had cereal. I had a cousin that would drink between a pint and a quart of milk in one sitting. I'm like, what the? By the time we finished breakfast, it was time for lunch. That's just how good it was. And on occasions, my uncle Julius was a cook on the train. We call it Amtrak, but he was a cook on the train. This is back during the day when they had real kitchens on the trains and they cooked real food. It didn't come prepackaged. And the men sometimes would fight about who was going to be on his ship because he was that good a cook. And sometimes they would pay someone to say, look, let me be on that ship. My Uncle Julius was such a good cook. He could go duck hunting with an empty rifle, aim it at the sky and go bang, and the ducks would fall at his feet. Plucked. The man could cook. And when he cooked, his biscuits were so light and fluffy, we had to throw a net over them to keep them from floating away. It's true. They were light and fluffy. Pillsbury boy had nothing on him. But hearing stories, and I heard a story the other day that reminded me of that. See, that's the power of stories. It evokes memories and sensations. You can recall a smell. You can remember how something felt, even though you're not feeling it. You can remember an emotion. You can remember a triumph. You can remember remembering. That's powerful. And that's the power of stories. That's why we have to keep stories alive. That's why we have to keep telling the stories and sharing the stories and teaching those to follow us. Now, we have television, and that's fine. And we got radio, that's fine. We got movies, and they're cute. And they tell stories. But this, what we gathered to do here, that is powerful. And that makes the things ring. And this is powerful. And it inspires those other genres. Storytelling is a powerful tool. It's also medicine for the soul. Stories, stories. Never let the stories die. There are more stories in our souls than there are stars in the sky. My name is Baba C. I've been your host at the World Storytelling Cafe.com for the 3rd annual Marrakesh International Storytelling Festival. I bid you well, and remember this: the difference between a good day and a great day is you. Tell your story. Do we have time for Q&A, or do we have to be out of here?
What we're talking about.
Because you have to understand, my sense of time is you wake up, you do things, you go to sleep. That's my sense of time. So, did anybody have any questions about the festival, or questions about me, or questions about questions? Or did it? Yes.
It's not a question, but you mentioned the power of storytelling. I'm not allowed to participate by story about,
You want to tell a story?
not story, but my story, storytelling.
Okay.
It's a kind of story.
You want to share your story about storytelling?
How it began and how I became a storyteller.
Yes.
And also, it's because a lot of people here share their emotions, and I don't want to share my emotions as well. It is possible.
Would you like to do that now?
Yeah.
Come.
Right?
Introduce yourself to our audience.
Right.
Tell them your name.
So my name is Omar Azul Azuflatun. Happy Amazigh New Year. And my name is Omar. I'm 26 years old. I'm a resident storyteller at your World Storytelling Cafe. And it all started when I don't know how to explain that, but I'm just to improvise things because I did not plan to talk yesterday.
And those are the best stories.
Yes. And just I heard a lot of people here talking about their emotions and the healing stories, and I love the subject of healing stories. So it's began about when it's 5 years ago when.
Oh, I missed the part. No, go ahead. The only thing bigger than my mouth is this cup, and I missed it. But go ahead.
As I said, it's 2018. My life was like this. It was a beautiful life. Then it was like this. It was like a shutdown, and everything has changed in my whole life. Like all the time depressed, anxious, alone, loneliness, and when I talk about this, my hands start shaking. It's but recently, like 2 years now, 2 years ago, I've been diagnosed with something called schizoaffective disorder. And those people who knows that it's something between schizophrenia and bipolar personality disorder. And means like you are living in your own world, and it's not that easy. Some people like me would stay at in hospitals, and some of them stay at home, introverted. But for me, I chose like the way of fighting this disorder, and it's not that easy. And it's fighting every single day. So when I wake up, I don't wake up as a normal person. So when I woke up, it's someone who wake up and he needs to fight a lot of things. You need to fight anxiety, you need to fight depression, you need to fight your mood, stabilization. You have a lot of things to fight. Also, medication helps a lot, but you know, it's not that easy to fight all these things in a young age, and you are not having such a good life because you know financially it's not that good, and in an environment it's not that good. So there are some environments that affect me in a bad way, but we're still fighting. But the point here is the good thing about it, it's the storytelling. When I discovered storytelling is also the healing stories. So how stories can change your mind. So how can it be the one that you are not in the real life, in the stories? For example, when I tell stories, I can be the Sultan and I can be proud of myself and I talk like this. Yes, I am the Sultan. I can be like a very rich man. I can be a very knowledge man. I can be anyone I can imagine in my brain. So that give me the power and to be what I want to be, even if you are not in the real life. So this is the power of storytelling. Also, you know, storytelling gives me the audacity that I have today because I have audacity to speak to people. You know, 2 years ago, I cannot speak to people like this. I cannot share my stories. I'm just like this. I'm very introverted. I can't see that I'm depressed or something like this. But now I'm very extroverted to the people, and I share my stories with a lot of people, and I say to them, yes, we can have some disease in our life, but don't stop with it within you. Share it with others and keep fighting because this is the only way to do it is this way to fight things and to be very, very brave and tell stories. And this is the power of stories, you know, tell your kind of stories, like healing stories, and tell your own story to the world. And we learned this in the school with Mr. Zohar Tasnawi and Mr. Ibrahim Ghazali. But they teach us like you cannot be a storyteller if you don't tell your own story. So in the first place, in the first day, I tell them this story and they say, yes, I have this. I'm not that very all the time smiling or something like this, but inside me, there is someone who is fighting every single day to be who I am right now. And you know, this is not the best way to tell my story, but I'm trying to explain the maximum possible.
I think this is a perfect way to tell your story. Kids, you say you're not a normal person. Who wants to be normal? Normal means you're just like everybody else. I'm not normal. That's my. I'm not normal, and it's fine.
But I
And
mean,
you shared your story with us, and you may have touched somebody in this room, and by that sound, a round of applause, I know that you touched somebody. I think you are one of the kindest, nicest people I've ever met, and we hit it off the moment we met. So I thank you for your story.
yeah, but I think that it's you know, sometimes people don't see what you are struggling with.
Right.
So, for example, I'm telling you this, even if I should not telling you this. For example, with my stories, the stories that I tell, it takes to me a lot of hard work because because of medication, I forget things. So in my stories, it contains a lot of gaps. So if I can tell you one story, I need more preparation. And if it's just one week, I can forget the story like completely. So it needs to be another hard work to tell the same story in the same way. So some people sometimes they judge you. No, you're a bad storyteller, forget things, and you are stuttering or something like this. And I say to them, okay, this is how I tell stories. Excuse me, but in my outside inside of me, I see yes, because I don't have any idea about what I'm struggling with. A lot of things because of medication. My concentration is damaged, and my memory is damaged, you know, in a bad way. Because but this is the best way to do it. if I don't take medication, I would kill myself like 2 years ago.
We don't want that.
Yeah, this is the best way to do it. It's like we only had one path, and this path it has good things and bad things. And maybe in 5 years I would stop the medication for my whole life, but they say it's chronic. I don't know. We can figure out what happened, but you know, it's
You'll keep telling your story.
yes, yeah,
Keep telling your story.
yes, you know, it's
And let me share something with you.
Yeah.
You talk about people judging. Listen to me very carefully. Other people's opinion of you is absolutely none of your business. Every day I wake up, I say, other people's opinion of me is absolutely none of my business. They don't live my life. They don't feel my pain. They don't feel my joy. They're open, and the word opinion starts with an O, and an O is a circle, and inside that circle is nothing. All right? So they opine young. So, okay, their nothingness of me is absolutely none of my business, absolutely none of your business. What you have, no, I don't want to say what you have to do. As long as you feel in here, and you're comfortable with being who you are, even with your struggles and challenges, that's what counts. Having said that, my opinion of you is that you're a good person. Continue being a good person.
thank you.
All right. Jesus. Power of stories. The power of stories. The power of stories. It is undeniable. Undeniable. And one of the things I like about it is that you can tell a story anywhere. I once told a story underwater. I have no idea what I said, but I told a story underwater. And I think the story was, help me, I'm underwater. Well, I want to thank you all for gathering. This is a preview of what's to come. Mike, did you want to say anything?
I believe that's not right, I think.
Is John here? I was so focused, I didn't.
I think we all want to thank FABSC, but.
Thank you very much. And I gotta thank Waleed. Waleed, this guy is magical. You know, he is, and he has new toys. You know, he's magical. You know. Yeah, so thank everybody for coming and having a great time. And I invite you, I implore you to take advantage of the festival, you know, to make a new friend, to create a new story, to tell your story. You know, you may not think your personal story is interesting, but I guarantee to somebody it is, you know. So with that, my name is Baba C. If you're still with us in the enter of the net, take care. And once again, remember that the difference between a good day and a great day is you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you guys.